Jay-Z was our Buddha in the hood. And he let us know, like, you don't have to be a gangster. You can be intelligent. That's a pointing out instruction.
Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Millennial Buddhist Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Whether you're listening through iTunes or Google Play Music, from my website, MillennialBuddhist.com, or even YouTube at the page Millennial Buddhist, thank you so much for listening today. I have a really, really great episode for you guys. It's trust me, it's hella entertaining. I've spoken with New York City yoga trainer Chayne Bodhisattva. That's the name he goes by. He's a very interesting character who's very passionate about the Dharma. Chayne is from New York City. He was born in New York City. He grew up in New York City. He lives in New York City. And Chayne speaks about how certain experiences in his life growing up in New York City helped him to think outside of the four corners of his neighborhood and towards a path that eventually led to the Dharma. We have a very open conversation about regular Dharma type things like impermanence, no self, the goal of a bodhisattva, while at the same time we talk about everyday samsaric things like, flirting at work, how disappointing it was to lose your virginity, desires of the flesh, things like that, and how you incorporate or use the Dharma to deal with everyday scenarios. I know a lot of you guys out there want to know, how do you blend those two things together? You're going to hear Chayne's perspective. So this is my most open conversation yet. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you think. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Millennial Buddhist Podcast. I'm your host, Marvin, and I'm very excited today, super excited, because I have with us today someone who I see a lot of myself in, and I also see the person who I think would really help to personify the Millennial Buddhist. And he's an amazing person. He's a great practitioner. He's got a lot of ideas. So I just want to introduce everyone to Mr. Chayne Baez. Hello, Chayne.
Hi. What's up, Marvin?
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm chilling. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Yeah, me too. I've been looking forward to this all week long. Ever since Chayne and I actually connected on Instagram, and honestly, the first thought that went through my head was, "Oh my God, I'm not alone. There are others out there." Uh, it's like that Will Smith movie. What's that one
I don't know.
where
It
the world
was,
comes to an end and he just like sends
oh
that
yeah,
message.
like
That's how
zombie apocalypse type story.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
another living human.
I'm just like, God, I'm sending this message out there, but are there others?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
someone responded, and
yeah.
so yeah. So I really wanted to just have a real friendly, basic conversation today. I've gotten some much valuable feedback from my fantastic listeners, and the one thing that keeps coming up over and over again is that people want to hear, how do we as Buddhists, and especially this generation of Buddhists, Western Buddhists, I guess I would say, um, how do we deal with everyday life? Everyday life, right? So,
Mm.
Chayne, I'm gonna walk you through an example, and you just let me know how you deal with stuff. So, if you followed me on Instagram, you'll see that probably about a week ago, maybe more like 10 days ago, but I just had this case of the blues for about a good 3 day cloudy stretch internally. And I was reaching out to people and I was like, how do you deal with this when your emotions have got you low? So How do you incorporate your practice or your mindset when you're having those down days?
Not so long ago, one of the many times that I
Mm-hmm.
fell into deep depression, and it was like several weeks and months. And I first found relief from it when I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm just depressed,
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's fine. Like, I'll just be that way,
Mm-hmm.
And then after struggling with it a lot and then just allowing it, like, it became like just a bottom in my meditation. I wouldn't call it peace because it was like peace is some sort of pleasure, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. And what I
Mm-hmm.
was experiencing wasn't pleasure. It was more like relief of not trying to not be depressed.
Okay.
I was just like relieved, like, okay, whatever. Like, this is just what it is. It is what it is. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
shit today, and that was done. That's like I would, and that was what I was reaching for. That's like a Hinayana approach. Like, okay, like life is suffering. Like, period. Like, what do I expect? I'm having a bad day. So what?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think to when you have that approach that life is suffering, and when you're in that dark moment, you feel bad. And I know that I try to bring myself back to the teachings, and to think that that I am a sentient being. I suffer, and there are others who suffer just like me. And I just wish that nobody has to go through this or has to feel like this, because it's something that's simply awful. And one thing that really gets me through it, and it's gotten me through it, and actually it was something from a previous conversation that you and I had, which was, you brought up about impermanence, that nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
um, and it's kind of, for a lot of people that's scary, but for me it's comforting. I get comfort from it, and
Yeah.
nothing is permanent.
Yeah. It's such a great thing that nothing is permanent.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
nice.
And I just know, like, if I'm
I
having
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, if I'm having problems, like in my social life, financially, or with my friends, or with my family, or my job, especially my job, but like, just to know that, like, nothing is permanent. And that it's like I just say to myself, Marvin, you've been to this place before and you came out just fine. So.
Yeah. I want to say on the flip side, I remember I had a girlfriend who was a Dharma practitioner, actually, like a bit more serious than me as far as like commitment to a Sangha and a teacher. And I remember, I think I even wrote a song about it. I think that I'm so happy I might cry, yeah. As the world turns, time passes, we might die, yeah. Got a lot of hopes and dreams, make it, I might cry, yeah. Anyways, it was like a pseudo alternative rock hip hop song.
Mm.
But I remember being in her room and, the candles were lit and we had just finished meditating, and I look into her eyes and I start crying. And I'm
Mm.
just like, and she goes, baby, why are you crying? Whatever. And I'm like, I'm so freaking happy, I told her.
Mm.
But I'm crying because it's not gonna be this way forever.
Mm.
You know?
Mm.
I was like,
Mm.
lo and behold, like next month we have a huge argument and we end up breaking up. But like at that
Mm.
moment, like impermanent made me cry because I was happy and I knew it wouldn't last.
Mm. So
Even though
yeah,
we stayed together, that feeling wouldn't last.
and that's the true nature of samsara. That you have your ups and your downs. It gives you a taste of both. And so, yeah, you're speaking about having a girlfriend, and also being a practitioner. Um, how do you balance that from an attachment standpoint?
From an attachment standpoint,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so so then that's like, and I could be using the term incorrectly. I'm not like the most learned, but like the way I use the concepts of like tantra and things like that, it's like, for if I don't have a self, then there's no me who can will myself into not having certain desires.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I still have the desire for a relationship, I can't help it. So then I just try to transform it and make it useful and put rules behind it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I have expectations of my partnership, that in my relationships, that like at least that they're beneficial to my dharma practice.
Mm-hmm.
If it's if it starts to go against my dharma practice, like
Mm-hmm.
my dharma practice becomes jealous,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in
So,
that way, like I try to instigate them and they instigate me.
so is this something you lay the ground rules and just like, if you meet someone, you have that connection, do you just like lay it down for them like this is what a TI is and it's, I can't stray away from this. Like you're welcome to come on the journey, but with me. But
I've tried to even ignore dharma in the sake of dharma,
mm-hmm.
because then that would be, pigeonholing myself as to say that this person isn't worthy of my love because they're not such and such practitioner. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just like really in the heart of the person. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if in the heart of the person there's someone who's good nature, then that's attractive to me.
Mm-hmm.
A good heart, a person, a woman with a good heart is so attractive.
Mm-hmm.
A woman who's like, uh, curious about the nature of reality is super
Mm-hmm.
attractive. Like that
Mm-hmm.
shit is hot. Like if Shorty got a good heart and like mind who's trying to figure out reality, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yo, who's that girl?
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. And so that's the two wings of Mahayana Dharma. So like, so even if they haven't read the books, those qualities are attractive to me. The same reason why the Dharma is attractive to me.
Could she be spiritual, extremely spiritual, just of another faith?
You know what? Like in my last relationship, like she had a lot of views that ended up being the demise of our relationship. Like we actually got along, but there were views that she was holding that were like wrong views,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Or that at the time I perceived them as wrong views.
Mm-hmm.
So and I couldn't take on her views. And though they were like political views
Mm-hmm.
that were creating enemies in my consciousness. If
Mm-hmm.
if I was to take on the views that she really believed in, actually I did take on the views that she really believed in, because she had views, especially nowadays in the political world, that was creating enemies in my mind, you know. So I that ended the demise because she strongly believed in those views and I couldn't take them on. So that definitely, it wasn't a rule, but it split up our relationship.
Mm-hmm. So was it the mindset or was it the politics?
It was that I can't have an enemy, period. I have no
Mm-hmm.
enemy. If I'm gonna be a bodhisattva, if I'm gonna train to one day be a bodhisattva,
Mm-hmm.
any concept or theory that creates an enemy in my mind, I don't want it. And if it exists, I want to understand why.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 for a second, I was thinking that it may be beneficial to have an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the only reason I entertained it. But then I realized, no way, Jose, is it beneficial. Not only does the sutras say it, I think the Bodhisattva's way of life talks about there's no reason for anger. He goes, Shantideva goes on about that. But then I even argued the Dharma and tried it out. And then it's just like, by example, by experience, fail. Like, I don't want an enemy, period.
I love that example with the stick. Like you should be angry at the stick because the stick is causing you the pain, not the person beating you with the stick.
Yeah.
The first
Yeah.
time I read that, I was just like, "Oh, that's genius. Good job, Shantideva.
Or
That's
or
hilarious."
or the innocence, the person is innocent, like being a certain way out of causes and conditions and karma that started from God knows when.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even want to name a name, but pick your favorite person that you love to hate. Where did that come from, those qualities?
Right.
you know they just woke up and started pissing people off on purpose? No way. And if they did, where did that come from? that desire to piss people off on purpose. They're innocent in having those things. So why am I going to be angry at anybody?
I I mean, yeah. I mean, what is the point of being angry at people? When I first became a Buddhist, and um, funny story actually. So I was in Nepal, and I was taking classes at the Buddhist Institute there, the Rinchen Yeshe Institute, and there's this monk professor who's there, and he speaks Tibetan, and there's a translator. So I say to the translator, because mind you, I was brand new to the Dharma, didn't know much about it, and we were talking about the sixth chapter on patience, and I said, so let's imagine that you're at a restaurant with your mother, and somebody comes up to her and they throw a glass of cold ice water in her face. I said, you mean to tell me that you're not going to do anything? And his response was, he gave the response which was backed up by the teachings, just a reminder of what Shantideva had said.
Mm-hmm.
And and then he said something. He said, well, my first question would be, well, what did my mother do to deserve this? She had to have done something to deserve this. And just like you were saying, if it's hard to think of it in the moment, but like if something bad is happening to you, it's like you never know. This is a long time coming. So yeah, that was difficult for me in the beginning, that concept, but it it bears no fruit in getting angry with the person again, because you're just starting that vicious cycle of karma all over again.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
I'm just I'm getting flashes of like, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't the samurai trained in like some form of Zen Buddhism? It's like, yeah, like it may come the time where like, you gotta restrain the guy who threw the water at your mother while you were having
Mm-hmm.
dinner. You may have to grab him and subdue him, and if he's hitting you, you may have to hit him back. But like, what is the basic feeling? I think if you're training your mind in bodhicitta, like, and you get good at it, you can be fighting someone and not be angry at them.
Mm-hmm.
You can be putting up your hands and not be angry at them as an enemy. You can be
Mm-hmm.
angry at them as to why are you doing this to yourself and other people?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you causing suffering? Like
Mm-hmm.
that can make me angry. But you're
Yeah, and
not my enemy though.
I think that's a sign of a good practitioner, because when you start to look introspectively at yourself,
Mm,
to wonder why these thoughts arise, where they come from, and to see that they're non-existent, you can do that with your everyday interactions with other people, even people who you may have disagreements with, or don't necessarily get along with, or don't have the same point of view. You can look at this person and just say, like, you know, well, what's deeper? What else is going on here? And I feel like that sometimes, especially if I go into a room, and um, if you go into a room and you see someone else, and they're just not talking to you, you know. So like, for example, I'm gay, and if two gay men walk into a room together, there's this weird tension between them, and like you don't want to look at the other person, you don't want to talk to them, you just kind of want to almost make it seem like it doesn't even exist. But then like I like to break that ice
mhm.
and just say, "Oh, like I love your shirt. Where did you get it from?" Something like that, just to get the conversation going. But it's like, I do that only because I want to get to know this person better, and to know more about them, and just to see their point of view, and to see where they're coming from.
Yeah, 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 I got you. So like, you mean like, so tell me about the icebreaker again.
The icebreaker.
Yeah,
So it's funny because it actually happened at work one day. It's a trick I use all the time. It happened at work the other day, and everyone's like, "God, why are you flirting?" It's I'm not flirting. I'm. You have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm breaking this wall, this imaginary wall that we put up between us. But there was someone who I work with, um, and we were all put into like a group setting,
yeah.
and we just kept going walking past each other's desks and never said anything until one day I noticed. I was like, oh man, like I love his shoes. He had these really cool black leather shoes. I was like, oh man, I was like, I love your shoes. Where'd you get them from?
Mm-hmm.
And then he starts telling me about, oh, I forget what store he got them from. And he told me how he got them on sale and they're his favorite shoes and whatever. Bam. And ever since then, like, there's there is no tension between us. We can look each other in the face and we can say hi without there being this like imaginary wall between us, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
I don't do
It's weird.
walls. The same thing happened to me at work. I flirt too much at work though. I gotta stop it.
That's dangerous for you because you touch people, so
You know what?
that's
Like one of my boss. No, I guess I could call him my boss, but he's one of my enemies in my mind. Talking about enemies,
uh,
but anyways,
I've been there.
yeah, like homie was actually complaining to me because I don't touch enough. Because my school is big on giving assists and things like that. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I don't give assists in class because let's be like, because like what my energy in the classroom, like I'm young, I'm vibrant, like straight black male. All the girls know that like if I see you outside, I'm gonna say something to you,
Mm-hmm.
and in good spirits, you know, in good spirits, like from the bottom of my heart, like so that everybody can have a great time. I try to
Mm-hmm.
be sensitive, like to that, to how they respond to me. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't think like I'm a dog. Like
Mm-hmm.
if they're responding, they're responding. That's like the normal courtship of like being human, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really do assist in class. You know, I don't even really do that. I might
Mm-hmm.
I might have the weekend playing, and God knows what he's talking about. You know, so I'm, so I'm not gonna touch you like at the wrong moment where like
Yeah.
he just said some wild shit.
Wow. Yeah. Your profession's one where you gotta be careful. But I can see.
That's why I don't even want to teach anymore because I don't want to be careful. I want to be
Mm,
1,000% real.
really? See, I went through this phase where I tried to suppress, those desires for the other form, um, other form desires for form, and
Yeah, exactly.
I went through this whole thing where I was just like, I'm because I'm bad at checking. I'm really I'm really bad at checking people out, and so I said I'm just gonna treat every single person and give them the respect that they deserve. And I'm not gonna, check them out. And I'm just gonna see them as, the people that they are, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Day
yeah.
day one didn't go well. So then day two, I said, all right, I need to go deeper and like, just like go into the teachings, and the teachings talk about how we're just these walking meat bags filled with like flesh, blood, and pus and all of these horrible, disgusting, smelling
Very,
things. We're
very
just
Hinayana, but go on.
yeah. Well, I needed to I need to get in touch with my roots to get
For real, nah, we gotta go there. We gotta
I
go
had to
there.
go there, and I that second day I was just like, trying to imagine that, and it's just it lasted, I would think, maybe 5 days, but man, it's hard. It's really hard.
It's hard as fuck.
Yeah, it's hard.
I just posted on Instagram something in regard to from the Vimalakirti Sutra. Like I'm just trying to find it real quick. It's at the end. I know exactly where it is. And he says he was compatible with ordinary people because he appreciated the excellence of ordinary merits. No, I gotta go back. Oh, here it goes.
Mm-hmm.
The last two lines. He was honored as the prince of princes because he reversed their attachment to royal pleasures and sovereign power. And this is the line. He was honored as a eunuch in the royal harem because he taught the young ladies according to the Dharma.
Hmm.
So like that got me today. Like, yeah, like there's certain concepts that like have like unsurpassable merit, like are
Mm-hmm.
coming to
Mm-hmm.
everybody. that were brought up in the midst of like me checking someone out,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So like that shit is, I think I was talking earlier about like not being able to control in a sense the feeling, or not being able to discipline oneself in the feeling. Like, we're not monks, so it's kind of like,
Mm.
you know
Yeah.
if I'm into someone, like, how can I make this a bodhisattva activity,
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah. Well, you can. They say that I've heard it from one High Lama in particular who's just said, you take the feeling that you have for your partner, and you apply that to all sentient beings, so the intense love that you have for them, or even like the love that you have for your own children, doesn't necessarily have to be a partner, but you take that and you apply it to all sentient beings and have it for all of them equally. So there is a way to translate it.
hmm
um, See, and I intellectually I can conceptualize this and I can say it, but internally in my head I'm just like, no, can't do it. Like just gonna lead you to more grasping. Like, don't even try to go that route.
hmm
Yeah, it's weird.
yeah. I mean, letting go of attachment is good karma
Mm,
that I may not have the merit for. So how do I develop the karma for that?
yeah.
Because then, like, there's a perspective that says I have to develop renunciation so
Mm,
that I don't have desires anymore, as if
mm-hmm.
there was such an I.
Right.
So whatever this is,
Mm-hmm.
this body mind thing, 2017, person in New York City, normal, regular shit, whatever this is, has these desires. And it's kind of like, I can't cultivate renunciation. I have a karma of this desire. How do I use that to create the karmas for perhaps my liberation?
Mm,
You know?
mm-hmm.
Like, I was listening to actually a Theravadan teacher said, um, I remember him saying, um, when you're doing, he teaches straightforward, like, noting practice and awareness, and vipassana in the sense of awareness of the three marks of reality, like uh, impermanence, unsatisfactory nature, and non-self. And he
Mm-hmm.
says, he says, you don't get to decide what attachments you let go of first. That would assume that there was a self to let go of attachments.
Mm,
And that shit blew minds. And that's when, you gotta give up. Like, I still smoke cigarettes, bro.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
You
Yeah, I smoke
and your
cigarettes.
healthy lifestyle.
What do you mean healthy lifestyle?
I mean, you teach people how to get into a pretzel. I mean,
Well,
I'm
yeah,
assuming you have a healthy lifestyle. So maybe that's a bad assumption.
but there you go. You see it? There's a lot of people gonna be like, "Oh, you're not real enough," and da 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 da. I'm like, listen, I don't know, like, what virtue do I have? You see? To me, Dharma is just like, put it like this: you don't exist.
Mm,
Like, whoever you think you are, just shut the fuck up. To me, like, and then if I'm gonna exert myself in being a somebody, may that be beneficial.
mm-hmm.
You know. So whoever I think I am, I hope that that's useful and beneficial. And I'm sorry that I still smoke cigarettes, because that may shorten my life and shorten my effect on on sharing positivity. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's, of course, I mean, you can look at it from more than one way. I don't want to really get on people and their health choices or life choices
it's
because
terrible. It's terrible.
Lord,
I'm ridden with guilt right now.
well, you shouldn't be because we all have our vices.
I'm shame. Shame is the word.
Yeah. I mean, I guess as long as you can say that you're actively working on it, or you're, like you were talking about earlier, trying to generate the merit to where that's something that's a part of your past, because once again, nothing is permanent, you know? No one
Hmm.
says you're going to be a cigarette smoker for the rest of your life.
I could be a cigarette smoker for 7 lifetimes. Who knows?
You could have been smoking your way through samsara. You wouldn't even know. Just
Samsara is one big cigarette, unsatisfactory. And
it
you just take
is.
another one and another one and another one and another one.
That's a very good metaphor, you know, and then it builds, it could lead to other problems, but you know, you just, it gives you that little bit of happiness for that time once you have it. So makes makes all the other stuff.
So do boyfriends and girlfriends.
Ay, vey, don't even go there.
Talking back about like like relationships and just like the as life goes by, like and I started practicing yoga and such things like at a young age, so I can't tell the difference between the fruits of meditation and practice
Mm-hmm.
versus maturity and experience.
Mm.
And are they even different? Because you know how the generation before us, like they may have like I don't know, like I don't want to even talk about that. But for me, it was kind of like I grew up, and then just Dharma was just fucking Dharma when I grew up. Like it was obvious,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
me, to not to everybody in my generation, but to me, it was just like duh. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, like I remember like being angry at an ex who broke my heart,
Oh,
and then trying out the I'm a savage, I'm a player thing.
oh boy.
Because I never did it when I was a teenager. I was always
Uh-huh.
lovey-dovey, like I want to be in a relationship. I love you so much. Here's some flowers and a card.
You trying to be booed up all the time.
That was me up until like 3, 4 years ago. Like a savage woman broke my heart. God bless her because she taught me. I learned a lot of renunciation. I cultivated a lot of renunciation and unattachment.
Yeah.
So thank that savage. She's a good savage. Dakini from the sky. Anyways, I was being a savage and I was having sex a lot and I was like sleeping around kind of,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm happy about the memories I had of the experiences in detail of just like having an orgasm and then being like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're just like,
Yeah.
that's it. Like that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
That's what this whole buildup was for.
This whole, yeah, that's it. What do they say? Wham bam, thank you, man. That's it.
You know what I mean? I'm just like talking all this shit, like late to work in the morning, drinking all this alcohol, like
Uh
trying to
huh.
remember what your name is in the middle of my
Yeah.
sleep. So I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, what is this all for? That's it.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I don't have a type. And this is to subquote, to kind of quote Ray and Shrumar, the hip hop group. Now
Mm.
my thing is like, I don't have a type, but Bodhisattva girls is the only thing that I like.
Mm.
So what I do, what's been happening in my life is I got higher and higher. I don't want to say standards because then that would be assuming that I'm good enough for something.
Mm-hmm.
If the female isn't of a certain quality compared in comparison to the Dharma, like then I don't feel that it's worth me engaging with her.
Mm-hmm.
So not so like so when I'm looking for sex now, which the desire is still there, I'm looking for a sangha member.
Mm.
I'm not looking for sex. I'm not looking for even a relationship. Like, will you be my wife?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for a sangha member who I may marry, who I may have sex with. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like my whole and I bagged Shorty today on the streets. Like I'm hanging out with my homie on the block, and she comes up, and they have a transaction of sorts, and I'm like, she's getting ready to go, and I'm like, you're beautiful. Like it just comes out of my face, and I don't have
Yeah.
a name, mind you. It just comes out of my mouth. I'm like, you're beautiful. I'm like, you remind me of a girl that I saw in a certain situation, and she started walking off with this old man, probably because he had money. Like, where's your heart at, and how do you feel about that as a woman? blah 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 blah. At the end of the conversation, it was like a 2 minute interaction. She's about to leave, and
Mm.
I'm like, yo, that's it? And and she goes, yeah, I gotta go home and cook dinner. And I'm like, and I'm like, yeah, but like, can I get your number? And she gave me that look, like, uh, you know what
Oh,
I mean? And I was like, and then I
yeah.
told her right away, and I was like, nah, I mean, like, yeah, like we can have sex right now, but I'm really on some friendly shit.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, okay, cool. And we exchanged numbers on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Just like very clear, like, yeah, like we can go fuck right now, but honestly, like if you're not really with the shits in your heart as a being, that's the priority at this point. You know?
Mm.
Like I met a beautiful person in 2 minutes. Like, are you really that beautiful person? Let's build.
Yeah.
You know? And then like and that's the filter for if we can go forward or not. You know?
Yeah. I for me and with my experience, I've just, you know, like I whenever I have situations like that, or whether it be like, interacting with someone on the street, or whether it be, hooking up or something like that, I always take this opportunity, and it happens frequently, to where I just say, like, for me, it's a teaching. And that whole that was it kind of thing, it's like, I kind of feel that while I'm in the midst of talking and flirting. It's just like, I feel like this isn't going to lead to where you want to go, like,
Yeah.
um, so it's kind of like you're just stuck in between this place of everyday life, because, everybody likes the snuggles every once
You
in a
know what I
while.
mean?
But then there's like this cave that I picture in a remote hill somewhere, which is where, I picture myself inside of that remote cave. So it's kind of like you're just like stuck in the middle. And I don't know. I just, it's something that I battle with. It sounds like for you it's much easier, but for me it's just like, you want someone to be there to go on the journey with you, right?
No,
I guess that's kind of.
well, check this out. And this is like the matrix of like thought ideas in with dealing with the Dharma.
Mm,
Like the in modern life. It's it's like, okay, like am I a Shravaka or
mm,
am I a Bodhisattva? What
mm,
does it mean to take a vow that says I will be in samsara for eternity?
mm,
For innumerable sentient beings.
yeah.
There's nowhere I can go. There's nowhere to go. There's no
Mm,
goal. If you're a bodhisattva, if you do the math from the math that I did, is that there's nowhere you're going. There's no goal for us. There's no
yes, there
goal.
is.
What's the goal for a bodhisattva? In the
To
sense of
free
just like the finale.
to free all sentient beings.
Our sentient beings innumerable.
Yes, and that's why we have to free them all. Like, it's
But that's a contract of eternity though.
well, it's finite. I believe it is finite. I think the number of sentient beings is finite.
No way, dude. No way.
You don't think so?
No way, dude. It's fucking impossible. That's what I mean about arguing with teachers. Like, I'm like, bullshit. No, but, and I want to hear your point about why you think, so I'm not ignorant to, like, not listen, but I'm so, like, innumerable beings.
Right, innumerable,
Like,
but I do
what do you
believe
think?
it's
What do you think? So, sorry, like, I'll shut up after this. But I just remember the Buddha goes to Subhuti in the diamond cutter. What do you think, Subhuti? Can you measure the distance, like, of space to your left, basically? Like,
right.
look to your left. Can you measure the distance that way? Look to your right. Can you measure the distance that way? Like, you can't measure the distance. Scientists, no one has measured the distance yet. As far as I know, no one has, like, and that's like the universe. let alone the earth. Like the earth is so many sentient beings. How are we gonna get to them all? How many lifetimes I need to get to everybody in the world? Get
Right.
to everybody even in the city on my block. We gotta get to everybody on the block.
Right. So,
And that'll take
and
years.
if my memory serves me correctly, the thought isn't to become overwhelmed with the numbers, the
Hmm.
figures on the sheet as to how many people. The only thing that we have to focus on right now is you, and in theory, the you and me, right? So between Marvin and Chayne, and once I've taken care of myself, the how as to how I help everyone else, that comes with the package once I've discovered it myself. So right now in this present state of mind and this being like I can't, like I'm just like you. I'm just like, whoa, like I look at an anthill and I'm like, how am I gonna do all these? This is one anthill. How am I gonna get all these people? Right? You want me
Yeah,
to do all the anthills. There's
yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna, I'm not. I don't think it's possible. But I mean, once you've reached that level of consciousness, once you've become, a Buddha, once you become an enlightened being, like that, your compassion is so vast that the thought of helping countless sentient beings is not a problem. And I don't think that, the Buddha himself would set us. You were asking like, why is it that I think that it's that way? If 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 the number was infinite, if it wasn't, you know, why would he have us do that? Why would he have us keep going, coming, going, coming, going, coming? It has to be finite. Like there has to be an end
As
to
far
where.
as I know, like I've read countless sutras where the language that they use is a whole bunch of words, like countless,
Right.
innumerable,
Then
infinite.
right. It's not something that our minds can comprehend exactly. Like I really can't comprehend exactly how many sentient beings are, underneath my apartment building right now, let alone throughout the universe. Like I can't comprehend it. But that's why I think that's where they're coming from when they're talking about the innumerable. But um, I have to believe that the number is finite. It has to be.
Well, check this out. Check this out. The other half of the bodhicitta coin, I call bodhicitta like the way I think of it now, not that I know, but as far as my understanding goes at this moment.
Mm.
If I take a coin and on one side there's bodhicitta, on the other side of the coin, what is it?
It's love and compassion,
No, no, not so bodhicitta and
wisdom and compassion, the two
wisdom and
rings.
compassion. So there's sunyata on the other side of the coin, right? Like basically emptiness. So this is what I had a glimpse of. Basically, liberation of the in of your of me, the liberation of you in the bodhisattva vehicle comes from bodhicitta in the sense of just like if my if the existence of these aggregates that
Mm-hmm.
compose what is designated to be Marvin, what's designated to be Chayne,
Mm-hmm.
if these aggregates are dedicated uh, towards benefiting like sentient beings,
Mm-hmm.
they there's a we become non-self-referential. So that's the immediate freedom. Like like I got a job as manager of a yoga studio. Like it
Mm-hmm.
has, and it's not because I was taking care of myself. It's because I gotta make sure that the maintenance girl is emotionally okay. Then I gotta make sure that she's cleaning the school so that
Mm-hmm.
the yoga students are in a clean room, so that the
Mm-hmm.
temperature is a certain way. And then I gotta make sure that like that the drinking water is at the right temperature, that the machine is working, that the core water is in the fridge. I gotta make sure that I check the mail, which I didn't today. I gotta make sure all these different things. None of it has to do with me. I have to make sure that the aggregates that are designated as Glenn gets good sleep and gets good food and
Mm-hmm.
has its own pleasure so that it's satiated enough to not resent being beneficial,
Mm-hmm.
but that then I'm enjoying the fuck out of myself for the sake of sentient beings because I don't want to. I'm not going to be helpful if I'm cranky, but
Right.
that eventually it has nothing to do with ourselves is what I think, and that's what shows us emptiness because we disappear as something that's out for ourselves. There's the no self. From bodhicitta comes no self,
Right.
and then from no self, there's no sentient beings here, and there's no sentient beings there. So then there's either infinite sentient beings or no sentient beings, and that's the toggle that I've been practicing in the Diamond Cutter, or like what seems to be the case.
Hmm.
You know?
So I guess, well, when we talk about bodhicitta, the and what I remember being taught is that the bird of enlightenment flies on the wings of wisdom and compassion. So when and this is the existential question which I have yet to answer. Could just speak, I'm not there in my practice yet. But I mean, what is wisdom?
Wisdom is knowing and seeing things as it is.
As seeing things as they truly are, right?
Yeah.
So um, where is wisdom when you're where is wisdom when you're checking the mail versus when you're actually doing your meditation practice? Can you see things as they truly are while you're doing regular, just everyday, mundane stuff?
Well, you know, and it's a practice, but you know, it's I benefited a lot from a Theravada practice and comparing it to a Mahamudra practice.
Mm-hmm.
You know that this is just the content of awareness, whether I'm sitting down on my cushion or whether I'm walking around in the streets. The Satipatthana, straight from the beginning, the Buddha says that there's several meditation postures: sitting, lying, standing, walking. When looking left, just know you're looking left. When looking right, know that you're looking right. You know,
Mm-hmm.
as a skilled, turner when turning something something, like, and as a skilled turner and his apprentice when, just fully mindful and fully aware of turning left, mindful and fully aware of turning right,
Mm-hmm.
mindful and fully aware of like putting the key in the hole. And that's just content of awareness. So it's kind of like meditation meditation right in the Theravada Sutra is invalid as far as like insight goes. Maybe shamatha is a different thing, which I don't have. But like insight, you don't need to sit down for insight. You just need to look at existence. It's obvious you can listen to a clock and know impermanence. You know, you
You
can,
think so?
yeah, listen to a clock. It's just impermanence.
It's just impermanence going round and round again.
It's just like it's death and impermanence. It's the sound of
Yeah.
the clock. You don't need to meditate to know impermanence. You just need to listen to the clock. Normal everyday shit. Like that's what I think. Like normal everyday people are Dharma practitioners, but they argue with themselves and say that they're not. You know, but the point is that like I don't know if you want to drive it back to a point, but but
now,
huh?
now, what were you gonna say?
Like I can't become enlightened because it's impossible for me to achieve enlightenment. Because if I was enlightened, there wouldn't be a me. At the moment of enlightenment, I don't exist. So then it's impossible for me to become enlightened. So fuck it then. I'm gonna be here and be beneficial. I can't become
How,
enlightened.
how you're saying that the self, the thing that we grasp onto as a self cannot become enlightened? Is that what you mean?
Enlightenment is the absence of a self.
Right.
At that moment, you're not a self.
Right. But if you say that you cannot become enlightened, then it just it it would kind of mean like you're just giving up. Like this whole thing is just not.
So look,
It's all for nothing. Like everything that the Buddha taught. I mean,
so
you're just saying
I
it.
want to read a small chapter, like chapter 7, Diamond Cutter Sutra. No attainment, no teaching. Then Buddha asks Subhuti, "What do you think, Subhuti? Has the Buddha arrived at the highest, most fulfilled, most awakened, and enlightened mind? Does the Buddha teach anything? Does the Buddha teach any teaching?" Sorry. Subhuti replied, "As far as I have understood the Buddha's teachings, there is no independently existing object of mind called the highest, most fulfilled, awakened, or enlightened mind, nor is there any independently existing teaching that the Buddha teaches." Why? Because the teachings that the Buddha has realized and spoken of cannot be conceived of as separate independent things and therefore cannot be described. The truth is, the truth in them is un what does it say? Un uncontainable and inexpressible. It neither is nor is not. What does this mean? What does what this means is that Buddhas and disciples are not enlightened by a set method of teachings, by a and he goes on and on and on countless times, basically like if the Buddha or the Bodhisattva really believed himself to be a Buddha or a Bodhisattva, they wouldn't be a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. So that what
Yeah,
they
but
want.
I mean, even the scripture that you just read, it clearly defines that. It's like, it's not what is or what is not. So you can't necessarily take the aspect that it is not.
Well, right. So the language is just a skillful means, obviously. So when I say I can't become enlightened, that's that's already after taking the idea that I must become enlightened.
Right.
So
So
first
I
you,
mean,
huh?
but it like when you say that you can't become enlightened, it to me it sounds like you're swinging more towards that it is not column.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's because like I already have this like huge like obsession with like craving need to become enlightened. Because otherwise like I'm a suffering piece of useless shit. You know?
You're not useless.
But like pretty much like I'm without meditation and dharma, I'm non-functional. Trust me. Like I'm only functional based on the amount of dharma that I'm holding at the moment.
You sound like a drug addict with their drug. Like, I can't function unless I got this stuff, man.
No,
Seriously.
no. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is just like I give everything good in my life. The credit is to dharma. That's what I'm saying.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Like dharma is the credit. Like dharma made me put shyness and to the side to be able to have this conversation.
Hmm.
Like I was just like, I don't want to have this conversation, Marv. But I was just like, you know what? This is beneficial. Like it's the only reason why I'm having it. So now I'm functioning. You see what I'm saying?
You got your dharma fix.
I don't got my fix. It's just like, I'm putting myself to use. Like
Right.
like I'm putting myself to use. And on the other side of it, I'll be happy that I did it, even in the selfish way of seeing it. Like I'll be happy. I'll be proud of myself. I'll be like, oh yeah, like I had the conversation. Like I got through a fear or something. But I didn't do it for me. I did it for other people. If I did it for me, I wouldn't have done it.
Mm.
That's just my, you know, that's just me. I don't know. Like other people may be different.
And that's it. That's the seed of bodhicitta right there. I mean, that just defines it purely. You know, and we don't do this for ourselves. We do it for others, and just what we were talking about before, like why continue to go through the existence of samsara to be born, to die, born, die, over and over and over again. And it's like, if you become enlightened, you can just enter nirvana and just peace out, deuces, I'm done. But I mean, we do this because we're just going to go through it over and over again because we want to help others. So I mean, even going back to the girl you met this afternoon, like, how many times have you hollered at her? Honestly, how many lifetimes do you think?
How many?
How many? You know, like how many times has
I've been
she heard that
hollering at you
same old,
countless eons,
we
bro.
don't have to go to bed now, but I just want to get to know you, baby. Like how many times have you spit that game to her, honestly?
Yo, for countless eons, I try to holler at her, yo, and she
You
always takes my number
countless.
and never calls me, dog.
And she's just like, here he goes again with that lame game again. It didn't work in 1686. It's not working now. So
Every time I kick game to her, it's like one syllable longer.
she's like, oh my God.
Slowly but slowly.
She's like, this boy, he sure is long-winded telling this damn story.
Let me check if she's following me on the gram. Hold on. Nah, because I told her, I was like, yo, this is my name. Follow me, yo. ChayneBodhisattva.
Yeah. But, well, is she a Buddhist? Because that Bodhisattva one, that's a little hard for...
Nah, but you see, you know how I asked her for her number, and
Mhm.
she goes, oh, you know what's funny? I was projecting. I thought she asked me, do I have a cigarette? And I was like, no. So I give her my phone number, and then I put my name in it, and I'm like, yo, like Chayne, Chayne, Bodhisattva, da da da. I put her like, yo, that's my nickname, and that's my Instagram. She was like, I thought you said you don't have an Instagram. I was like, oh, that's what you asked me if I have. You know, and I was like, yeah, I have an Instagram. My Instagram is ChayneBodhisattva. TBH, to be honest, like, you know, I'm blessed to be surrounded by enough women to just and to be confident enough to know that I'll eventually like have a girlfriend again. So I'm not thirsty. So even if she's just my friend, like she's gonna go into that Instagram and she's gonna be like, "What do you mean, Vimala Kirti? WTF? Who is that?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?" You know what I mean? Like, who knows what becomes of a person who's just following you on the gram?
That's true. That's very true.
Hold up,
And
like you don't know.
yeah, you don't know how much impact you have in people's lives. Like, I do this podcast. This is the 5th episode, and I have this one fan on Instagram who will like send me video messages and tell me exactly what they thought of the podcast. And it's just like, yeah, you know, it's like he's my number one super fan. And
that's lit.
yeah, and you're right. You don't know how, you know, when you're going through the whole process, you know, you're sitting here, you're doing the podcast and you're doing the editing, and then, you know, I had some challenges with my website this week, and you're just like, why am I doing all this? But then it's like, you know, he's waiting for my next episode to come out.
You want to know who my root guru is?
Who?
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z is not your root guru. Please do not go walk around telling people that.
It's not. No, but check out the butterfly effect though. Jay-Z. So I grew up in Washington Heights in the fucking ghetto. We're selling drugs, and to be cool means you commit tons of negative bad karma. The more negative bad karma you create, the cooler you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Hello?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so you know, I don't know how old I am at the time, but Jay-Z is very prominent. Like we're talking Blueprint. You know, he starts making songs with Pharrell Williams. He starts making songs with Kanye West. He starts wearing a button-up shirt. All of a sudden, I have permission to wear a button-up shirt. I have permission to skateboard. I have permission to listen to alternative music by way of Pharrell. I become a huge Pharrell fan. My neighbor, my best friend and mentor at the time, he was like 5 years older, has a weirdo sister. You know, like, because we're cool and we're all hip hop, she's weird. But I noticed she is a super Pharrell fan. I start hanging out with her, and then she starts allowing me to be more and more weird. That allows me to open up a book that she has in her room that she still hasn't read to this day past the first chapter, she tells me. And this is the same girl who's doing the logo for BCG. And I tell her, I tell her to this day, I'm like, you know what? I read that book. I think it was Holographic Universe. And that's the reason that for 10 years, like, I quit. I started practicing yoga that got me out of a huge drug habit. Like I was
Mm.
like doing tons of drugs, and like I got clean, I got sober, I started doing yoga. Like that became like a life path. Like I've been working there for like 10 years at the other yoga studio that I was at. Like, the first one, like I made family, like I've had relationships, I've had mentors, I've had best friends, all because of like that book, you know? So like, and that's just to bring into effect, like, you don't know what chain of events. Like, she might have been on Amazon one day, like, what the fuck is that book?
Mm-hmm.
And she still hasn't read it. And we're having this conversation because of it. I've taught thousands of yoga classes because of it to people who's have who God knows what happened because of those yoga classes. Like, the butterfly effect is humongous. Like,
Yeah, but you can't say that Jay-Z is your root guru. I'm sorry.
no, I can't.
Sorry. It's great.
No,
It's great. I see how
it's
the causes
blasphemous.
and the
It
conditions
could be
come
blasphemous.
together.
It's blasphemous. Yeah, it was a joke.
I see how the causes and the conditions can come together with Jay-Z, but Jay-Z is not going to is not going to give you pointing out instructions to the true nature of your mind. That's just, it's not going to happen.
Well, I don't know, but anyways, I'd have to think about that. He might have, in some way.
Yeah, in some subconscious way he might have, but
He I idolized him, and it was a point of refuge at a point. Like it's been replaced by the Buddha now, but at a time like Jay-Z was our Buddha in the hood, and he let us know like you don't have to be a gangster, you can be intelligent. That's a pointing out instruction. In some way, like it's a mundane dharma. It's a mundane dharma.
yeah.
It's mundane. It's not superior. It's not like, but it was like that's a huge difference in a person's life.
Yeah, I do believe that he opened up your eyes and the eyes of a lot of people to a new experience or to see the world through a different point of view. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And there's a lot of celebrities who have done that, and I think um, that's one way that Dharma spread through the West, but it's not like really how Dharma came to the West. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, Jay-Z opening up your mind to a new experience might be the stream, but I think the stream then leads to the river and the river then leads to the ocean. You know what I'm
For
saying?
sure, for sure. I mean, I said it
Yeah,
totally in jest as a joke.
I know.
More so credit to my best friend, like, to who had that book, and it's all karma. It's all, and I was when you sent me that prayer about the guru, TBH,
Yeah.
like now that we're talking about guru, when you sent me that prayer, I for some reason like it just came to my mind, like I was doing some research, and something I read in a sutra. Yo, dude, weird fucking events, dude. I don't know if I even want to go into all the details. Anyways, you tell me something about guru, and
Mm-hmm.
that affected me the way that it did when we had that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I got the new job at the yoga studio that I'm working at, which is a completely different style of yoga that I'm used to. The teacher tells me, don't look at yourself in the mirror so much. It's there for you to look at yourself. That's why we have mirrors, but listen more, she said,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then something in the Vimalakirti Sutra that as I'm still studying it since then, said something about, I think it was a commentary on the Vimalakirti Sutra. Someone was teaching, and they said there are pure lands that you can be reincarnated, where all you have to do is sit in a lotus and listen to the Dharma, because the birds are singing impermanence, because the wind is teaching you this, like literally, that's all you have to do. Like, when they talk about like non-returner, like you got maybe like one more lifetime left and you go to this pure land and
Mm-hmm.
basically there you'll become enlightened.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is the place where you go and all you have to do is and then but then something clicked for me when that teacher in my real life told me like listen more. I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "This is like that. If impermanence is right in front of me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Unsatisfactory nature is right in front of me. Like if I just listen to this experience, like this is the Dharma being taught to me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then like, but then you go Dzogchen on them, and that's it. If you go Dzogchen, they're talking about Adi Buddha. They're talking about the first primordial Buddha being everywhere, and it being that book, being Jay-Z, being, a Tibetan Lama, being the
Mm-hmm.
Delhi guy, being,
Mm-hmm.
your phone, being all of these different things are as manifestations of like, the root guru or like the primordial Buddha, the OG teacher. Like if you have a disciple ear, everything is a teaching. Like, and that's what the
That's
isn't
true.
isn't a Shravaka a hearer? Isn't that the translation? A hearer.
I believe so. And that no, but that's true.
Yeah.
You do. I don't know if you look for it or if it finds you or if you're just more conscious of it um, as you're going through. But like everything just becomes a teaching, or everything brings you back to the teachings. It's either one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today and listening to another episode of Millennial Buddhist Podcast. Please, if you enjoy this podcast, share it with others. Like I said, you can listen to us on iTunes. You can listen to us on Google Play Music. You can hear it on YouTube and also directly from my website, MillennialBuddhist.com. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Both of them are Millennial Buddhist. Um, and let me know what you think, because this was a different format for me. It took something different, and I'm probably gonna have to change the explicit content of this episode on iTunes to a different setting. So let me know if you like it, if you didn't like it, if you got feedback for me. Trust me, guys, I really try to format this for you, and because I want this to help others. So let me know what you think. All right, until next time, bye.